Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of At Home with Mark, the special evening edition. I feel like this is like the after hours Playboy channel or something from the 70s. We're doing this so
Is that
late
what this
today,
is?
Sean. Yeah. So we have Edge of Breakup here today. Buddy, thanks so much for doing this. This is a long time coming. We've talked for a couple years now. So this is great.
I'm getting a little bit of an audio echo now.
Oh, dang it. Of course, this always happens. All right. So there should be a thing in settings that you can do the echo cancellation.
It's all good. We'll figure it out.
Your phones might be a little hot. Maybe that's why it's picking it up or something. Sometimes
So
that
should
happens.
I turn on echo cancellation?
Yeah. See if that fixes it.
It's like a full delay of like a couple seconds though.
I can hear it.
Yeah. Okay. I have it on already, so that's not it.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, let's do this. Let me see if I can. I don't want to end the broadcast because then that'll like cancel this stuff. So, what is you're going through your interface? I'm gathering.
Yep.
Is there still a delay? Oh yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Crap. Okay.
Apollo Twin. Yeah. From Mike.
I can hear how delayed it is. It's a long delay.
It's like 10 seconds delayed or something.
That's weird. Okay. Log out and then come back in.
Great. Will do. See you in a moment.
All right. Sorry about that, folks. We'll figure it out. Randomly, this happens every now and again. I don't know why. For some guess, if this happens, but people get a delay in their phones. Worst case scenario, maybe he can just run through his built-in audio. But anyway, we're hanging with Sean. As soon as he comes back, we'll see if we can figure this out for y'all. But thank you for joining us for this late evening. Appreciate that. We're going to get into some stuff. Hopefully this audio works well. And then we can get cruising. Feel free to drop. There is a comment section where you can drop comments in there. And we'll be happy to pull up your questions on the screen and answer anything you want. In the meantime, while we're waiting for Sean, if you have any questions for me, feel free to pop them in there as well. But we'll get this squared away, folks. It happens every now and again. Audio. Why is it always threes? Why do we have to do things in threes? I'm not quite sure. If anybody knows the answer to that. All right, here he's back. Let's see what happens. Oh, yeah, it's still there, huh?
Still there.
What are you on a laptop or are you on a desktop?
No, I can do my. Let me just try and go through my standard iMac setup.
Yeah, let's see what happens. You can hear it. I can hear it like coming through his cans. There must be some kind of feedback loop thing happening here. We'll figure it out. In the meantime, for all you singers out there, I'm not endorsed by this, but this throat spray stuff, if you talk on the phone for work or if you are a singer, try this out. It's wonderful. Beekeepers, hook up a brother here. I love this stuff. It's great. Anywho, let's see what happens if we get him through his normal setup. And then we'll kick it. We will kick it. I was just practicing while I was waiting for him to pop in. Practicing has become a thing again for me. It's pretty nice. Say amen in the comments if you've been practicing guitar. Actually practicing, not just noodling. Practicing something new. That's the key. Key to growth. We all get in our little ruts. All right, let's see what's happening.
Is this any better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, cool. Just using my iMac. So
yeah, let's just do that. That's totally fine.
Great. Cool. Nice
all
to
right.
see you. Sorry for that.
So, Edge of Breakup is here. We're going to have a nice conversation about all things guitar, all things YouTube, Instagram, your whole story. Sean, I wanted to ask you first and foremost, you know the drill here. What is your earliest musical memory?
Oh, man. You know, I think one of the most visceral things is probably seeing my dad's vinyl collection for the first time. And just like, you know, when you're little, you're like on the floor and all the furniture is so tall around you, right? And he has this big tower from the 70s, this wood tower, and like there was like a cabinet that had like still had the childproofing, like baby locks on it, from when we were really little.
Yeah.
So he had to like bust that open and like, and so then it was like, man, so that was the first time I had heard Jimi Hendrix, and that day I'll never forget it. It's just etched in my memory really firm. So
you grew up with some serious music in your house then, like
yeah,
actual guitar music. Like I didn't have that. That's pretty sweet.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah.
Dude, no, I didn't have any of that growing up. I had to seek it all out myself, man. My parents were not, and they had some vinyl, but it wasn't anything that I was interested in at all.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they had. I'm like the dude from The Big Lebowski. I just don't like the Eagles, and they love the Eagles, and I respect the Eagles and like all those cats as songwriters and everything, but I can't get into it.
Fair.
But that's pretty sweet that you grew up with that. So, and doesn't your dad play too?
Yeah, actually, my dad. I was lucky enough to have a awesome guitar teacher right in the house, and he's a rhythm player and a singer, but he has like a bluegrass background too, so he can do a little bit of flat picking lead stuff. But then, so I kind of just fell into playing lead along with him whenever we would play at family events or we'd gig out and hang out and stuff like that. So it was just having that kind of a resource in the house is priceless. It's such an experience.
That's awesome. So like that's a pretty hardcore dichotomy of like Hendrix and bluegrass. Like
Yeah.
now I applaud that because I think that's how we all should be, is like open to all styles of music and everything. But like, so if he's listening to those two, like Appalachia meets like Seattle with Hendrix, like what other stuff was in his collection that you fell in love with super early on?
Well, to explain all of that, I think it all comes back for him to the Dead, to your T-shirt actually. So
okay.
So the Jerry Garcia like psychedelia meets folk meets like almost borderline jazz, and in a weird way jazz and bluegrass kind of connect to each other around the backside of the block if you walk that route almost. Yeah. So I think he was well set up to introduce me to a lot of diverse stuff. So one day it'd be Peter Rowan on in the car, the next day it would be Hendrix and SRV, Clapton, and some Eagles too, unfortunately for you. I heard a lot of Take It Easy growing up, played at the dinner table. So yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. So so that's great. So then he just had totally super diverse. You were exposed to like a crazy diverse amounts of music.
Yeah, and like huge amount of Beatles too. I shouldn't leave that out.
So, yeah.
I grew up worshiping the Beatles and taking apart all those songs as I was getting into my first bands in high school and playing out with friends and stuff, and just trying to figure out why the hell does this song work that way? Like this song is in D minor. Why the hell does it end in D major and all that great stuff? So
speaking of D minor and D major, well, technically it would be D flat minor to D flat major, but like. The Alice in Chains song Down in a Hole?
Yeah.
The ending of that song always cracks me up because the whole tune is this like really ominous, like foreboding like song. And then the very end, listen to it, and it ends on a major chord.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, too. It just feels like it just comes out of nowhere. And I wonder what the thought process was there. And like, oh, maybe we should resolve this.
Yeah.
Like maybe we're not down in a hole anymore. You know what I mean? It's super funny.
There's hope.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, that's
the only way you can make a heavy song more dark is to like inject an undercurrent of a major third underneath some heavy riffing. Like I love a Perfect Circle when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, I've never listened to them. Like I love Tool,
right?
I grew up listening to Undertow, but I've never checked out any of that stuff. Like any of
the first two albums probably are, especially the first one. Is worth checking out if you like Tool. But yeah.
Did you? So you probably had a very similar path with me in terms of like you find an artist like Hendrix and then you start to hear, like for me, it was Mike McCready. It was like, what did he listen to? And it was Stevie and it was Jimmy and all that stuff. Like, did you kind of do that too, where you were like in the midst of contemporary styles that were happening, contemporary bands, you kind of went forward, but then you went back again to rediscover stuff?
By the time I was figuring all this stuff out, when I had the Hendrix realization, I had probably just gone to like my first serious gig that I initiated that I really wanted to go see, and that was like Radiohead, And so that really just took over my life completely. But like all the songs I was learning at the time, I was learning like Black by Pearl Jam and like all the stuff from 10, but I didn't really understand that McCready was Hendrixian because the Hendrix thing was so new to me still that it was like too close to my face. I couldn't see the detail yet almost,
Right.
But I grew to really appreciate it. And, I grew a real love for like B-sides that bands put out too. Like just the fact that Yellow Ledbetter was this, I remember discovering the CD at a friend's house at a party they were having and go, what's this whole other Pearl Jam like set of tracks that I've never heard before, And so that was a real coming of age thing for me and like developing musical taste. So yeah.
Yeah. I loved that period of music history where that stuff happened, where there was like import singles and random stuff that was like shipped over here that maybe was done like and maybe recorded in the UK or wherever. Right. Like getting like the Oceans single, but it had Dirty Frank on it.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that, where you're just like, what is this song? Or like, and a bunch of bands did that stuff at the time. And I wonder now, what's the equivalent now of that? Is it just like random singles on iTunes? Like, what's the equivalent?
Like it's finding like side projects of members of bands that are only on Bandcamp or something, right? But even then, everybody can get it. It's not like a scarcity thing. Maybe the closest thing would be like when like DJ Danger Mouse put out the Gray album, which was a mix between the White album by the Beatles and the Black album by Jay-Z, and then got almost sued out of existence for it. Like there was only like a brief period where that pirated music, you could go get it,
Yeah.
And so I still actually have that album somewhere, I think, but it's weird. Scarcity will be created through ways that you can't anticipate, I think. But
man,
I miss those physical days though. Like having those imports. Radiohead was another great example. Like Pearl Jam had that going on, but there were probably like 7 or 8 different like maxi singles or imports from Japan with like alternate cuts and mixes, and I loved that.
Yeah. Are you digging that Smile stuff?
Yeah, it's a little difficult to be honest, but I think everything that they put out is always difficult at first, and then in 5 years it'll seem like, oh yeah, well of course you would do that.
Yeah.
So,
although
I like the drumming a lot too.
Yeah. Although, how did you feel about In Rainbows? Because I feel like that was pretty palpable right away.
Yeah, In Rainbows was probably the most like approachable thing they put out, especially considering how dark everything was leading up to it and how dark it got after that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not a happy album either. It just is more approachable, I find too, though.
Yeah. I find it so funny too how like 15 Step was in like Twilight in the like, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, I wonder, I guess they got paid bank, man. But like to hear Radiohead in like a pop culture reference, like a tween vampire story was so interesting. It fit, the music fit perfectly, but like that song, and that's what I love about Radiohead too. They just don't give an F.
Like, they were just on, there's a great podcast they were just on just yesterday, actually. You can look it up in their feed probably, but they were talking about one of the hosts of the podcast, Jason Bateman, and they talked about the process to like get one of Radiohead's songs featured on Ozark.
Oh, really?
And like Tom basically admitted, he's like, oh yeah, he's like, I was CC'd on the email, but I didn't respond to it or something. Who knows how the inner plumbing of getting all that stuff licensed actually works, but yeah, it seems like one got past the goalie when it comes to Twilight, probably.
Yeah. Look, Will just stopped in.
Oh, hey, what's up, Will?
That's cool.
Will's actually one of the reasons I have this Frank Brothers, man.
Yeah, you can talk a little bit about that guitar. I wanted to ask you, I wanted to get there, but we can just go there.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to ask you, what is your number one? Like, what is your number one guitar?
Man, I was just on a podcast recently, about a month ago, and they asked me the same thing. It's getting hard to choose in here. Been very fortunate to come across not just some older pieces with some Gibson vintage stuff, but also just these small builders who make incredible stuff. So, I mean, right now it'd be hard to say it's not the Frank, because it's got Lawler old wine P90s in it. 50s wine P90s rather. And treble bleed in the volume, which is really great for cleaning up the Benson. But I have to give a nod to Prisma too, because I have this Prisma Sunset that's right this side. There we go. It's reflected right back there, the green one.
Like the surf green one?
Yeah. And it started out with humbuckers in it, and I kind of just have been on a journey trying different pickup types, and Lawler makes these gold foils that slot right into humbucker routes. And the minute I got those foils in there, I was like, this is it. Like, this is exactly what I want. So any demo I'm doing delay or like reverb with and has a mastery on it, that's the guitar I go to because it's so crystalline and clear. So I'd say my answer is, I can't give you one, unfortunately, but I'd say it's right in between these two guitars right now.
Okay. Are the gold foils at all? Are they like microphonic at all in any way, shape, or form, or are they pretty tameable?
I feel like they're pretty tameable. That was the thing with vintage, the Teisco old stuff, maybe, but
Yeah.
I found them to be really under control. They have this kind of like single, like over baked single coil kind of sound. It's nice and sizzly and splatty on the low end, but like really just gorgeous detail on the high end, even on the neck. And it really, like, one EQ setting on the amp will get you by when you flip pickups. It's not like one of those things that you can't balance it correctly. You know?
Yeah. That company, isn't that like the skateboard deck company? Yeah. Okay. See, I don't know anything about them. Like, only thing I know of them is stuff that you've posted.
Yeah, let me grab it. I'll see if I can hold up the camera.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, and the body shape's really neat too. It's very, very different. That's rad.
Flick the Benson on the standby here. There we go.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. This is so I originally had let's see if I can get this up to the camera the right way. There we go.
Yeah.
So those pickups originally had skateboard wood on them, like veneer on the front, and he does this kind of rainbow cutting technique. So he cuts it through the skateboard grain.
Nice.
But you can still see a bit of it on the tip of the volume. And
oh yeah.
If you look at the headstock, he's got like a.
Oh yeah, man, that's
there.
super cool.
Nick makes awesome stuff. I really recommend getting a build started with him. But it's all really cool nitro Deco Boom guard. So it reminds me of like an old tabletop in a diner from the 50s or something.
Oh yeah, well the whole guitar screams that. It looks so retro. The headstock too, like attention to detail is like that's just like that shows you love what you do. It's so cool, man.
Really cool brand. Been talking to Nick for years, and I actually got a baritone made by him a little while ago too. That's just stunning. It's actually got the skateboard top, but a monochromatic top, which is a cool twist on it. So.
Oh, neat. What's the neck on that one made of?
This one, I think this is a alder body maple neck.
Oh yeah, cool.
It's pretty vintage tint gloss, very light on this one.
Yeah, nice. That's beautiful, man.
Oh, actually, the fretboard markers have the skateboard. I forgot to mention.
Oh, move it over. Yeah,
I'm on the camera.
Yeah.
See, I'm getting faked out because I thought I'm looking at the camera.
That's so cool, man. Yeah, dude. So let's go back to so you're in the car, listening to music with your dad. You're getting interested. So how old were you when you first picked up the instrument?
Man, I think it was probably about 11.
Okay.
I think coinciding with middle school. Everyone has that first guitar that's kind of around the house where the action's a little too high to play anything good sounding with it, and your fingers are just getting murdered, So we had this like old red guitar that was like a totally no-name brand, but my dad had a bunch of his guitars around too. So it's that age is really delicate too, because you're not quite physically big enough in some ways to actually like reach the end of like, the cowboy chord part of the fretboard.
Right.
And so I think luckily I had pretty long extremities. Like I had grown by that point. And so I finally could pick it up. There was a short era before that where we had this like really lame Junior Pro guitar, which was actually like tuned to G standard because it was like so much shorter, and I think it was just like, it was fun to rip on it, but it wasn't a serious guitar. So I think around that time I was like, middle school, getting a paper route. And so I actually did do the get a paper route and buy a guitar saving technique that
nice
kind of like lore of the teenage years. Right. And so that was great. And my dad didn't make me wait until I saved up all of it. He was like, okay, you're halfway there. I'll grab the other half and we'll go grab it. So we ended up getting like, I think an Ibanez RX series.
Nice.
If we want to romanticize the tale, I'll say my first guitar was a USA Telecaster, but the real first guitar was like this RX series. God. So,
You got to start somewhere, man.
yeah,
Let's
you
be
do, for
let's be
sure.
real. And I feel like there's no shame in that. I mean, I feel like people throw shade so much at stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, first of all, if you're a kid that age and you're a parent that's like, I'm going to, split this with you, you're not going to go all in on the first guitar. You
Oh
want to
yeah,
know that they're going to stick with it first, right? It's just
totally.
not, you know. So from there, so you're 11. You started taking lessons with your dad originally?
Yeah, and I don't think we did anything very informal, right? And I think my dad had his mentality right in terms of I'm gonna supply it as there is demand. Like he's interested in it, we'll give more, right? Kind of thing. And so it wasn't super structured. After all, he's a deadhead, right? So a lot of this is based upon ability to think on the fly, improvise, and those things are still kind of with me, I think. I'm not the kind of player who recites the song verbatim. Like I can totally tell you why a song works and everything, but when I play lead, I don't typically like recite like a speech kind of thing. And I'm not actually that way with public speaking as well. I'd rather know the gist of a speech and then kind of freelance around it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's great though. I mean, I feel like, not pushing your kid, I feel that, they probably feel that way. I feel that way about my daughter.
Yeah.
So like we got her a guitar 2 years ago. It's like one of those pink Squires kind of thing.
Awesome.
And she got into it, but she got to the point where she's like, ow, ow. I'm like, yeah, that's part of the process.
Yep.
But at some point I gotta be like, if it's not fun, put it down for a little bit. You know, we can come back to it kind of thing. Cause I don't want to push my kid to be like, just live vicariously through them or whatever it may be that I'm trying to do it.
It's about them, of course.
It is. Yeah. So
I think like on the bright side, she has a dad, and luckily I had a dad who knows the value of getting a guitar set up. And you shouldn't have to fight the instrument beyond the callus forming, at least.
Right. It's always funny because I can't even remember. Do you remember how long that lasted? I can't even remember it. I can't remember how long my fingers were like bleeding. You know what I mean? Because I didn't care because I wanted it so bad. So I can't even remember.
I wanted it so bad, but during that first piece of junk red guitar that I mentioned, like it was an acoustic with string. It was like a dobro string height, but you were trying to play it. It was terrible, right? So, but I was so determined. I was like, I had the Nirvana Unplugged album, and I actually went and got the tab book for it at the time, and I was just trying to execute on that. There was no way. So, luckily, I was playing my dad's guitars until I actually could afford a nicer one. So hopefully that'll be the case with my kids too. They're getting into piano now too, and again, I'm going to take the same mentality. If they're asking for it, it's here. But
yeah, I love that. I mean, it's nothing that brings me more joy though. Like I got so misty the first time. Like my kid, we have a drum set in the house too, and my kid started getting interested in that, and so I was like, you know what? Let me teach you how to play a backbeat. And she picked it up so quick, and I was like, hold on, let me go get my amp. And I like got my guitar and my amp, and like she was playing a backbeat, and I was playing, and I was like ready to like bawl because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I thought it was gonna be like being a dad. But dude, it's so fun to see that stuff happen in front of your face where you're like seeing a sponge soak up the water, It
is.
It's crazy.
My oldest son, and I said, and again, I'll emphasize that it's his interest that's driving it. So I play piano on the side, and I'm really just remapping my guitar knowledge to a different instrument. Like, so I wouldn't say I'm good at piano, but I enjoy like going, okay, well, I know this song on guitar. Let me just force my way through it over here. And eventually I'll get quick enough at it that it's not embarrassing. Right. So, but my son doesn't have big enough hands yet. Obviously he's only 6 going on 7 now to play guitar. And so I'm like, well, he wants to like play piano pretty often. So I started showing him it, and like, I'm actually showing him like augmented chords. So we were going through some stuff by the band from the Basement Tapes, like that song Bessie Smith, and there's a C augmented in there to lead you to the A minor, and he could totally hear it now. And so he knows major chords are happy, he knows minor chords are sad. And I had that Mark moment you mentioned where you're like, oh man, this is gonna get me. This is gonna get emotional a little bit,
100%, dude.
Yeah.
100%. It's crazy. So okay, picking up the guitar, you're feeling good about playing music, getting more comfortable in the instrument. You got yourself proper guitar. Yes, it's an Ibanez, but it's still a proper guitar, damn it. When did you start playing with other people?
Emphasis on damn it.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, we had like this lame little amp around the house that was like but at the time I thought it was sweet. It was like a PV Rage 108. And so the clean, yeah, you have one right there.
I have one. It's right outside my office.
Yeah, you do. And like it has like the blister texture on the outside, the classic PV.
Awesome.
So I was playing through that most of the time, but eventually I went through the same paper route journey as I did with the guitar, but for an amp, because had to graduate to a tube amp, right? And so what was the brand I knew? It was PV. So why don't we go check out what PV has in that range? So I ended up settling on a PV Classic 30. And man, I played the shit out of that amp, like embarrassingly into my 30s. And so as someone who like reps like a guitar tone channel now, it's funny. It's really funny to look back and see how rapidly the internet has changed how we feel about tone. And I really have to credit like Dan and Mick on that pedal show for educating me. I mean, it was like going to internet guitar school in some ways for tone. So that was a major step though, the Classic 30, because it had spring reverb in there, had a boost channel as well as like a drive channel, a foot switch, so you could do it all live. And so at that point I was making friends who also played music and just trying to like scrape it through and figure out how it works, So we played our high school gig or two. And at which point I got up the courage to play behind my head, even though I had never done it before, but somehow pulled it off, So it was great. It was such a formative time. Look back on it pretty fondly.
Dude, you're gonna laugh about this too. I had a PV Classic 50.
Yeah, you did.
Which I loved that amp. And you know why I got that amp? Because I saw Stone Gossard was using them at one point. And dude, I toured with that amp for like professionally, like in a van and a trailer and stuff. I had that. We toured for years, and then I got a Mesa Boogie 212 cabinet that I used the PV Classic 50 with, and it sounded amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing with it, like the whole preamp thing to push those tubes. Like I was just using it as a clean platform. I didn't know it had this whole like Texas blues type of a thing you could get out of it. But those are good amps, man. I feel like out of all the PV stuff, anybody that looks back, I had a Bandit too in between there. So I had the Rage 108, which I used in my 7th grade talent show and played over a drummer with a metal zone. But then graduated to the Bandit and then to the PV Classic 50. So same route, man.
That's great.
That's what we had. That's
a rite of passage for sure. I mean, to be honest, the Classic 30, and I'm sure the 50 had it too, had an effects loop on the top panel. And so you could actually, towards the end of my ownership of that amp, I started messing around with amp modeling like digitally. And if you could throw something directly into the effects return, and it would sound better than the actual amp sounded in some cases.
That's hilarious, dude. Did you tinker with stuff like that all the time? I've never done that, but it seems like you're really comfortable with like, even like soldering and tinkering with stuff.
That's a recent thing for me, to be honest. And I still haven't ever really messed with amps besides switching tubes. So this is where we give the legal caveat. Please don't say that please don't mess with your amp. Take it to,
don't kill yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But for terms of guitar mods, I had actually just kind of been afraid to lift up that rock for way too long. And I finally was like, this cannot be that hard. And, Mitch from Emerson Custom kind of talked me through how it works and what to do and recommended some stuff. And he's a great guy for sure. But I realized where the breaking point for me was like, I had pickup makers that wanted to do demos with me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, not only do I not have an extra guitar to install pickups in, I actually don't know how to do it myself. And we're in the middle of COVID and the shops are appointment only because they're so backed up with COVID orders. And so now that I can do a little self-service, it's like very, very liberating. Do you do anything like that?
Dude, no. I'm so scared to touch my guitars.
I gotta show you. It's so easy. It's not bad.
Everybody tells me that, but I should probably do it on because I want to swap out. I have a 99 Shoreline Gold Strat, like American Strat. Mm-hmm. And I want to put those MF pickups in it, like the Scott McKeon pickups. I should probably just practice on that because if you can't really screw it up. If I mess something up, I'll just take it to a luthier, the guy that I use, and he'll just fix it.
That's your get out of jail card. I mean, like it's not, you're not going to mess it up. I'll tell you right now. Like, especially if you go pre-wired kit or pickups that already have the same wiring situation that you came from, so you don't have to splice any wires. It's pretty approachable.
Okay. I mean, so Aaron's saying to not do it. You're ruining the mojo. Dude, Aaron, I'm scared. I probably won't, buddy. You don't have to worry about that, man. I think that there is probably a level at which we get to in the age we are where it's like we're capable of adjusting, like adjusting the saddles and adjusting the truss rod without worrying about breaking the guitar. But at the same time, if I were to ever screw something up, I would never forgive myself. I'm like, dummy, why did you do that?
Well, you got to screw something up to learn something is what I tell myself. Even when I get mad at myself for messing things up. I recently did a speaker swap on an amp cabinet and really wasn't that bad at all. It didn't even require any soldering. It just pull the clip off and unscrew it with a drill. So I'm such a software guy, and my dad is like full on hardware and like did his own remodel on his house. And so I'm constantly in awe of the analog world. Maybe a little bit too much. I could do with more curiosity. And so now that I've opened this Pandora's box, though, it's who knows where I'll stop. So
yeah, that's awesome though, man. That's very liberating. Like taking care and managing like maintenance on your instruments and your gear. I mean, I definitely got shocked from pulling the chassis out of my 2-Rock.
Oh yeah,
because I got a cab. I got a 112 combo. And then that I can just pull the head out of, the chassis out of the head and put it in the combo if I want to just go to a gig and not have a cab and a head,
Sure.
And when I got it, I hadn't turned that head on in like a week or so.
The capacitor is hold charge, right?
Oh my God, do they hold a charge, bro? I was like, and I was like, okay. It's like, be careful. Don't touch that. But man, it's I'm just a dummy. It's just like sometimes I just feel like I gotta leave it to other people. There's other things that I do really well. Like I can play the guitar well.
Yeah, you can.
I don't need.
One of my goals today was actually to tell you how great your playing is. So.
Oh, thanks, man.
People should definitely go check out your new release. I certainly did, and I even bought it. So.
Thank you,
awesome.
Bro.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. But it's scary. I mean, all of you for being able to do that stuff because it's like mind-boggling to me that people do that on their own. So when you are playing with your PV Classic 30 and you're playing with your band, like, did you have like a 3-piece or a 4-piece band with your friends or anything like that?
Yeah, it was like a 4-piece. I think we were called like the Stereotypes or something like that. That was
Stereotypes?
No, Stereotypes.
Oh, I was like, Stereotypes is delicious.
We weren't that clever, yeah. But my friend had a house way out on the edge of town, like on a vineyard lot, actually. And so that was the only real estate that was anywhere near close to remote enough where we could actually turn up and play. And so as fate would have it, that was the drummer's house, luckily. So we would just lug our amps over there and leave them in the garage kind of thing and then go play. But I think at that point I was probably just getting into having a pedal board, and that this company SKB used to make these pedal boards that you're nodding.
We had the same thing, I bet. Go ahead.
The same journey, exactly. So, but plastic edging on it with a built-in power supply, right? That would get destroyed because you would leave it plugged in the soft case and it would bend the power supply. That was 100%. The downfall of mine. But I think filling it up slowly with a combination of Proco Rats, Dunlop Crybabies, and I think you remember the Ibanez Sound Tank series?
Of course. Of course. I think I had the chorus. Pretty sure.
I had the flanger because it sounded more extreme than the chorus, and I'm not sure. I'm still pretty sure it wasn't the right choice, but that was like my one modulation besides a wah at that age. So.
Oh man, we didn't know what we were doing, man. Like it's just kind of like. And how did we even choose pedals at that time? We weren't as informed as we are now, Oh. Like I bought a chorus. I bought the super chorus in 7th grade because Kurt Cobain.
Of course.
And I didn't know what I was doing. Like, at that age, what am I going to do with the chorus? Like, please. Like, I should have bought an overdrive pedal. I should have bought like a TS9.
Absolutely.
So how did you decide what you were going to get?
The funny thing is my dad had like probably a late 80s TS9, but we were running it into like a PV Rage 108 and being like, this doesn't sound good. It's like, so, yeah, I don't know. I think that Sound Tank series was so depressing because half the time you would step on it for your part of the song to put some flange on stuff. And maybe this is why I don't like flangers that much to this day, but you'd step on it and you'd be like, this doesn't sound very esoteric and weird. And then you'd look down and the damn switch didn't even register you tapping because it was such a cheap plastic switch on that series.
I know, dude. I know. Man, they looked cool though. I'll give it that. You have to give them that. Like the aesthetic of that was pretty neat.
I feel like that's the one range that's not going to go up in price over time. It's just going to stay at or below what it was originally sold for.
Yeah, until Josh Scott finds one that is glorious and is like, this one is actually great, and then they'll be $800. But
it'll be some ironic mayor board layout where he throws the 60s fuzz dark green variant.
Just to mess with people, or have like the grunge pedal on his board. Be like, oh, maybe that is cool. Speaking of DOD, I thought DOD was pretty cool. Remember their little like the little strips that was the foot switch that you would step on? Like there was like a little black strip on it.
Yeah, wasn't it like just like a rubberized strip, right?
Yeah, totally. I had the envelope filter, and I don't know where that thing is, man. Somewhere along the way I lost it, but that thing actually sounded really good.
Yeah, my friends always had the DOD stuff. I never actually personally owned one, but I remember the envelope filter was awesome. And it made me kind of jealous because the wah took up so much room, but the envelope filter kind of got the job done.
What wah are you using now? Are you using a full-size wah, or are you using like one of the 3/4 or?
So I got a couple boards built, and wah is not really a part of any of them at this point. But recently I picked up a Jam pedals
Waco. I saw that.
And it was like before I had even started talking to them about doing any kind of demo work or video production, I was like, because their custom shop is crazy, right? Like, and some of it's like so crazy that I'm like, I don't know if I could rock that one, but this one was so interesting, and it would look like something out of a Mario Brothers level or something like that. So I ended up pouncing on it, and it was like hand wired and tropical fish capacitors and all that, all that mojo stuff. And man, it sounds great. It has like a knob on it so you can choose kind of the Q resonance where you want that to sit. And I guess it's really okay to go later in the chain too, even with fuzz. I haven't actually tried that yet. I know a lot of people claim that, but I should hook that up soon and give it a shot.
Yeah, it sounded great, and all the stuff that I saw on Instagram and whatnot. I mean,
thanks.
I've heard nothing but good things about it. I've never played any Jam pedals, but I've heard nothing but good things about them. So
they make great stuff.
Yeah,
really,
looks like it. Is there any let's just start to dive into some of that stuff, because we both love gear. But like, as far as amps and pedals and guitars and stuff, like I find the journey to discover what you like so like arduous
and
expensive, but like I feel like it's kind of the journey, like we've been talking about, of finding your voice as the player. Is there anything that, even in the past year or two, is there anything that you purchased that you're like were shocked how much you liked it?
Man, I'm pretty lucky to play as much gear as I have, and I know you have quite a collection too. And so it's really, first of all, let me just say, like, can't complain about the situation I'm in. Like it's like getting everything you wanted as a teenager all the time, pretty much, and just having this to like retreat to during COVID was the best escape, and combined with my family and everything, of course, and so I think some stuff that like really, really blew my mind. I think the first time I got this on the board, was unreal. And I had been playing. Have you heard of the Neo Minivent?
Yes.
So like, I really, really liked the Minivent. It came with some trade-offs and caveats. Like, it takes like a weird voltage. It has to have a voltage inverter on it. It's like, but it has the switch to ramp up and down on it. And that's the part I love about rotary so much, that you get that spinning up and spinning down kind of oscillation. And when I first plugged in the 1968 Vibe, I was like, this totally does that ramp. When you switch from side A to side B, it's not just like a hard cut from fast to slow or vibe to chorus. It actually kind of crossfades it.
Totally.
So I know you're a big Jesse fan too. He's incredible.
Yeah, I have that, and the little screw came out of one of the knobs. and
Oh
I-
no.
yeah, I don't know how that happened. I talked to Jesse; he's gonna send me one because I couldn't find one. Because it's a metric screw, and I went to like Home Depot and Lowe's; they didn't have one that small.
What a Brit! He's keeping it real with the metric screws. I love it.
Oh my gosh, dude! You know what else is great that does that same thing? Have you ever played the Strymon Lex?
Yeah, totally.
That thing rules. I
It
love that thing.
I found that the Lex, it captures a clean rotary sound really well, but I didn't love the way it takes drive and fuzz. I felt like I was getting that blanket over the tone kind of feeling, and I didn't get it with the minivan. It just felt, I don't know, it felt like it was going into a speaker instead of a effect emulating a speaker.
Right. I can see that. Yeah.
Here's a cool trick with the rotary though. If any of you have the Game Changer Plus, which is like the piano sustain pedal, there's a way to run that wet only, and then it'll grab samples of your playing and like little micro samples and stretch them out infinitely. So basically strum a chord, step on that and sample the chord, and then use your other foot. This is a sitting down operation because it's like operating an organ. Right. So then step and ramp the speed on the Lex, and those two work so good together. Like it makes your hair stand. Like hearing your new album and your new tracks, that's a trick you definitely need to try because it makes you feel like you're an organ player truly. So
yeah, I should probably do that. I don't have an organ player in the band anymore. I mean, it's not every day you can get Gabe Dixon to play B3 on.
When you told me that, I almost passed out. So
dude, it's crazy. So I know you love the Benson. So after the PV Classic 30 though, what was like your first and it doesn't have to be the next amp, but like what was your first like wow, like this is what I've been waiting my whole career for amp?
So there was a big stretch of inactivity between acquiring the PV and going Benson, and that stretch of time was like college and like my early career. And during that time, I went really wide and went into the acoustic world instead. And kind of, that was where I discovered like how to take apart songs and how to like figure them out by ear and the Nashville numbers and all that stuff. Right. So it was a critical time of my life, but I had completely dropped caring about effects pedals. And I think I had this stigma from high school of like, man, it's like you said, it's exhausting to find your sound because every one of them costs X amount of dollars. And who knows how it's going to sound with my amp. I don't have my amp at the store when I'm shopping for stuff. It's just so subjective. But I think it was probably when I just moved into this house that my wife and I bought it a bunch of years ago. I was looking around for guitar stores that were near me. And so I found one that was really great. And it wasn't just like Coors Light Guitar Center kind of thing. Sorry, elitist. But they had, Pliny the Elder up in there. They had some good micro brew stuff. And so that's where I discovered Milkman. I was like, what are all these gorgeous amps with like really beautiful pastel colors and like the white grills on them and stuff. And it was probably like 8 months until I finally broke down and bought my first Milkman because they cost quite a bit. It's not quite 2 Rock territory, but probably about $3,300 US. I was able to offer cash and walk out with it for like $29, so I was stoked on that. But it's the Super Creamer that, let's see if I can move just a bit. It's that beige.
Oh yeah,
and that one, it made me feel like, wow, this is how I should have sounded for 20 years. That's a sobering thought. It's kind of a thought, like you're kind of angry at yourself in a way because you're like, I wish I had realized this earlier. And that coincided with kind of discovering that pedal show and understanding how drive stacking works and why this amp archetype works with these pickups and stuff. And so I was happy that time had arrived, but I wish it had been sooner.
Man, better late than never, bro.
That's right.
Is that thing kind of based on, more of like a Princeton footprint, but it's just got more muscle to it kind of thing?
Yeah. So it's like somewhere between 20 and 22 watts, depending upon what tubes you run in it. You can swap 6L6 and 6V6 without rebiasing. Not that I've actually done any of that. It was freaking perfect the way I picked it up that day. But I think it's like a Fender Super with 2x10 configuration, and then it mixed with kind of a brown panel because it has harmonic tremolo built in.
Oh, I did not know that. Wow.
And it is some of the best. That's my point of reference for harmonic tremolo tones at this point now. Whenever I play a pedal that purports to do that, it's like, well, is it Milkman level? Or because
Right.
Tim crushes it, man. And the spring tank in it's really, really nice. You get a dwell and a mix to kind of get it all set just correctly. And it's got a 2-band EQ. I really like amps with 2-band. 3-band, it gets a little subjective for me in terms of dialing in mids. So usually I like the science of like, you know, if I want more mids, I'll just drop the treble and bass, you know, or etc.
Right. Well, yeah, he makes his stuff is just like on point, and everything that I've heard and every player that I've heard play through his stuff. And I had Tim on here in the first season, I think.
That's awesome.
First or second, and we talked a lot about you know, how he, you know, hears things when he's building them, and I thought that was super interesting on the whole process. And the same thing goes for other builders like Headstrong. I don't know if you've ever heard those amps, but like he's building stuff like more like that Princeton muscle car kind of, you know, configuration in an amplifier. But like that, the Princeton is probably one of the most perfect amplifiers I think I've ever played through. And I don't own one, unfortunately, but like when I got to play through that 66, I was like, oh, this is why everybody's like Princeton.
Yep.
You know, but it's just, there's something about it, man. Like, and is that amp, and you can probably tell me, just as the way I experienced the 2 Rock stuff, is like, it sounds like HD guitar. It's almost like, it's like as if your amp knows what you're about to play before you even play it, kind of thing.
I think that's well said. It's a very fast amp under the fingers, but it's not one. Sometimes that when people say fast about an amp, it has the effect of you don't want to dig in too hard because you'll blow your eardrums off because it'll really react to you, right? This one has that snap, but it has this like crystalline top layer to the high end that you almost can't get enough high end. And I had spent much of my life like avoiding or trying to tone down the high end part of the signal chain because the sequel to that first Ibanez I had was a 90s Fender Telecaster because I wanted to be Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. So but I didn't understand why anyone liked a Telecaster for so long. And I realized after playing it for years that like this wiring sucks and these pickups are not doing me any favors. And like this finish is choking the tone and like all this stuff. And so
what was wrong with the pickups? Just to interrupt for a second. What was wrong with the pickups? Were they like anemic or?
They didn't feel very balanced and they felt like they had never met each other. Like they felt like complete strangers. And so sometimes the middle ground between pickups that don't gel well together is interesting because they're so different.
Yeah.
But like I put Lawler vintage neck and special bridge in that, and it totally fixed the whole thing up along with some Emerson wiring. And best thing I ever did to that guitar because you don't want to sell like your first real guitar. You know, it's a heartbreaking thing to do. So I still have it, luckily. But,
nice.
Yeah.
And look who else showed up.
Buddy, I was gonna make a cup of coffee and use your mug for this, and I totally spaced on it. But that guy's one of the coolest peers of ours out there. Big fan.
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone needs to follow Edge and Buddy for sure. He just sent me his picks. Do you have any of his picks?
No. Cool. What is that one?
This thing, I have been playing Jazz 3s. I just actually was texting with him about this today because look how thick it is. Can you see
I was
that?
gonna say I could perceive the bevel on the edge from you holding it up right there.
Dude, it is. And what's so cool about this, I mean, like compared to, dude, I've been playing Jazz 3s since 2007. And then he sent these and I was like, wow, this thing is like, it's like holding a stone in your hand, like a skipping stone kind of thing. And then I went to play it. And, you know, we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, how much picks can affect your tone.
Yep.
This thing darkens it up in the most beautiful way. I am not just blowing smoke, man. Like, I might be a convert So what? I'm like, and I was talking to Buddy about what the picks were and everything, but like,
Let's do it, buddy. Buddy says he's gonna send me some. I'm in. Love
it. But yeah, so between that and then when I bought my light speed and I got one of those gravity picks, this too, I was like, holy crap! Like, where have I been under a rock for the past whatever 13 years, 15 years?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know why. I think the reason I switched to Jazz 3s, and I want to hear what you use, but I think I switched to these because I was using like mediums, some like Planet Waves medium picks, and and I was always playing too hard. I was digging in too hard with my right hand.
Right.
So I wanted to get something that was more precise and thicker that made me chill the F out. And it did. It really helped. But man, whoo, this is even better.
I can't wait. I think I'm settled for now on what I have, but I'm open to trying new stuff because you know, that looks incredible. And if you guys use them, that's quite an endorsement in my world. So I'm using Dunlop Tortex, but the black ones.
Yeah,
so
totally.
They're like 1 millimeter or something like that. And they something about like the chalky, they almost have a chalky texture on them that holds them in my hand, keeps them still.
That's how Buddy's picks are.
Perfect. Then I'm sure I'll love it then.
Yeah, it's dope, man. It really is. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm in a whole conundrum right now about like what should I be doing with picks now. I wanted to back up to YouTube and everything. So we probably started doing this around the same time when everything shut down. So did you actually start doing this in 2020 or was it a little earlier? Or?
Yeah, I think Instagram was the first thing. And it was around the time, man, I can't believe it's been that long already, but around my oldest son is going on 7. So I started posting just guitar stuff on my personal Instagram. And then just through the spread of hashtags, that started getting kind of bigger. And my wife was she's like so sage advice. She's like, you should split this off at this point. Like you should start a new one and, you know, keep the family separate. I'm like, you're absolutely right. But it took me like a few days to kind of think about that because you kind of amass an audience and then you're like, I'm going to walk away from this now. And you know, not everybody's going to come with you when you link to the new account, right? And so that's when I started Edge of Breakup, when I jumped over like that. And so it's funny, like I started out just doing photographs because that's what I'm trained in. I'm a graphic designer and photographer. And I was like, man, how can I get my playing over a photograph? And so I just started working with iMovie with a Ken Burns effect to create some motion on the photo and just drop your playing on top of it. And so builders like Petty John and Greer got to know me really early. And, you know, shout out to Nick Greer. He was a huge believer early on. And I got to meet him at NAMM right before the world ended. So, but I know you had him on recently. That was a great show too. And it's awesome. He has the gravity picks going on now too. So yeah, at that point, I was at this precipice where like, I was like, it's kind of like the place you're at with modding guitars. You're like, I'm sure I could do this. It's going to be a big commitment. I got to buy a soldering iron. And that's, you know, and so now I'm at that point in my career, I was like, I could do video, but I'm going to need like a really nice camera. That's not just a photo camera. It's got to have all the video features, like great autofocus and all that stuff. And so it took me a while to kind of like figure out the finance of all that and get it done. But at that point, I fell down a really steep hill. Like it was like, okay, now I need 2 cameras because like I got to show the pedal and me too. And then it was like learning Final Cut Pro and, you know, figuring out once you know kind of one design discipline, it kind of it all applies. Like it's like everything I know about static graphic design totally applied in the video world, but there's just different words for the same thing. So it's a slow process of learning that. But it's been so fun. I mean, I look back and I'm like, man, I would have loved to go to school to be a video storyteller or a cinematographer or something. So it's something I wake up in the morning. I look forward to it every day, to doing a little bit more, pushing it further.
You still could do that stuff, man.
Yeah, you never know. I think with kids, it makes it harder and with a career and job and everything. But at the same time, I'm very wary of like taking something you love and like I already have a career that I love, so I'm not looking for that or to switch that. Doing this in the extra time in my life and getting to dig in with stuff like this in my spare time is like, okay, like it's exactly the break I need to do something creative too. So.
Yeah, that's great, dude. And you do such a wonderful job of visually stunning images and great playing and like
Thank you.
really kind of walking everyone through the sounds of what this thing does and like honest, just opinions on things and covering all the bases. Like I'm always kind of like watching people like you and RJ and
Oh,
Rhett and how you guys frame things, because I'll never do that. Like I'm more of a gear man dude type of a guy where I'm just like,
great.
I'll be in the camera and you'll see the pedal and it's always one take. I just sit down, turn my camera on and just, and that's what I do.
I can appreciate that. Most of my stuff is one take. I might clip a little edit here and there, but it's supposed to be you sitting down with me opening this pedal and me kind of figuring it out on the fly and showing you what I run into. And it doesn't mean I don't read the manual or I'm not familiar with anything about the pedal, but it really is like a first play in a lot of ways. So by the way, your playing is awesome. I always feel like I'm trying to catch up with people like you and Leonard and man, and Ivantic. I mean, there are some monster players in our little neighborhood. But I love that it never feels like, people say it makes them feel down to watch people play that way. And to me, I don't feel that at all. I feel spurred on. I feel like, how am I going to steal everything this guy's doing and twist my own thing out of it, kind of thing, So,
well, what's interesting too is, in the past couple of years is I haven't really been practicing. And what I mean by practicing is like finding a new element and a new outlook on or angle on the way that I play a specific scale or a way I play an arpeggio or the way that I'm like voicing a chord or whatever it may be.
Yep.
I haven't done that in quite some time, but now in the past 2 weeks, every couple days I will come down here at night for, even if it's for 20 minutes and I'll shed on something. And it's making me excited about the instrument again. I think that's what I try to get across too. And what I do is like, dude, like if you're not stoked to pick up this thing, like you got to walk away from it. It's like if you're a gamer and you're stuck in this one puzzle and you can't figure this freaking puzzle out in Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to put the controls down and you got to walk away for a couple minutes, and that's okay. But like, I'm enjoying the process of like getting my ass kicked again. You know what I mean? So I think it's fun. Yeah. And I think that's the way you should be. Like you said, like never be like, I'm never picking up the instrument again.
I can't identify with the, I don't play guitar anymore, the past tense thing. I don't think I would be the same person without this in my life. But I do think that there's a lot of truth to, I was very lucky to have a teacher at the formative part of my life where I could really soak things up quickly. And my dad. And because of that, though, I haven't been as quick to seek out other viewpoints in terms of learning until the YouTube and everything else became like a guitar teaching, like Thunderdome.
Right.
Now,
that's perfect.
I've checked out courses from like Jamie Harrison and like, Brett Papa and all those guys. Corey Congilio is another person I should shout out for being influential. But, it's really just as a player, it's so important to really pay attention to every time your hair stands up in the back of your neck when you hear something. Like, you need to go learn that song, that means, because that's, that's the universe telling you there's something about that excites you. And the sooner you untangle that knot, the sooner you can claim that and make it part of your style,
Yeah, man. Well, you have your own thing going, and it's been so fun to get to know you and watch it and see how it's been developing. And I feel that way about, there's a lot of people like us making content where it's so fun to get in the ground floor with people and see the evolution of how things go. And we were talking the other day, like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, you obviously have a background in this stuff because you do it so damn well.
Thanks, man.
And it's so visually fun to look at and, scroll when I'm scrolling through. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, what I mean? It's just like,
I do feel like I'm hitting a little bit of a plateau lately. And so I need to go back and woodshed and I need to go learn some different styles. But what I'm trying to do lately is like really come in clear to play a pedal and don't have any preconceived notions of any licks I'm going to play and let it pull me. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone gets tired of hearing their own licks, and I think I'm just in one of those phases right now. But that just means I need to go listen to some new stuff and start absorbing some new things. So, but you guys really keep me going. I'm like, I hope that someday I can say I can play like you, because say what you want about production value or any of that video production stuff, your playing is out of this world. So,
oh, thanks, dude.
yeah, you bet.
You know what I think? What I love hearing you do, what I think you do really well that I can't do well, is more ambient stuff. Like when you've been putting out the Walrus videos and stuff with all that ambient
Thanks.
kind of playing and interesting harmonic structure to what you're playing. I feel the same way about Terry. Is such a great player, and he won't admit it, but like he has, and I don't know what it is about Canadian guitar players, but they have this innate harmonic, just natural ability. But I feel that way about you too, with like what you've been doing with like your videos lately. Is like there's a lot of really cool ambient stuff that I find very impressive.
Thanks.
The squeedle is not everything. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So
I think this is the seesaw of my Hendrix upbringing, but it's also Radiohead pushing and I think that ambient music takes, it takes quite a beating, to be honest. Like when it comes to like, oh, I'm a huge stacking reverb guy. I'm going to play an A chord for 10 minutes and twist knobs. And it's like, you can make ambient music that's very ambitious harmonically. And when you see me doing that, I'm really I'm playing diatonically, like within a key, but then I'll major one of the minor chords from the key, and it'll push me towards a new key center, right? And I'll just keep venturing out further and further until I kind of forget what key I was originally in. But as long as you keep those moves diatonically, have a good reason for where you're going, people will buy it, I think. So
oh yeah.
I appreciate you noticing it, because sometimes I feel like the moniker Edge of Breakup indicates that I'm going to be like wailing on AC/DC the whole time, and that's not the goal here. I definitely want to embody a few different styles.
Well, I think you do it all great, man. So
thanks,
killing, man. All right, you want to do some lightning round?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's freaking do this. I have a good one. I told my wife, I was like, I got some good questions tonight for the lightning round.
You always have good questions. I always enjoy it.
I do my best thinking in the bathroom. I will be honest, Sean. So it's true. It's 100% true. All right. Cruising altitude of 112 BPM, ladies and gentlemen. The lightning round get down, if you are new to this, is 10 questions I'm going to pose to our friend here. And it's a quick response, or respond and explain your answer. I don't mind either. I love hearing responses. You know this, but you don't have to. The first one, it's cheating. You know what it is, but Lennon or McCartney?
Lennon.
All right, West Coaster, Disneyland or Disney World?
For me, I'm West Coast, so it's got to be Disneyland.
All right. And this isn't a this or that. This is the first time I've ever done this. This is for you. What is your favorite offset guitar body?
Well, I think I'm going to go with Jazzmaster. I don't like the Mustang switching situation. Or not the Mustang, the, what do you call it? I'm totally blowing this now. The Jaguar. Yeah. I'm not Mustang experienced. I have to say, this has been a real joy to play, though. And it's kind of in that family. So I'd say Jazzmaster.
Is it like a reverse Jazzmaster almost?
I feel like it kind of is a reverse. I mean, like, I'm not going to, say
it
that
looks like it
necessarily, but it does kind of feel that way. So, and it's nice. It doesn't headstock dive still. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Beautiful. All right. Another West Coast question. San Diego or San Francisco?
San Fran, baby.
All right. Burritos or tacos?
Oh man, I have to choose.
Yes, you have to choose. That's this game.
I'm going to go with tacos in the name of portioning, but burritos if I've been drinking.
All right, cool. All right. Arcade game machines, okay? I'm dating myself. I went to arcades. Did you go to arcades growing up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Which one did you like better? We're talking multiplayer game, okay?
Okay.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or the Simpsons game?
Oh, those are actually the same game with different skins on them, I feel like.
They are.
I'm going to go with Simpsons because I recently, well, not recently, it was before the pandemic. I went to my friend's birthday party, went to an arcade bar, and I got to play The Simpsons for like 4 hours straight with as many
heck
quarters as I wanted. So it was a great return to form of like that age. So let's say Simpsons.
Oh my God, I love it.
Do you remember when they put out the Ninja Turtles arcade game, but for like Nintendo?
Yes.
And it was like not even close to as good as the arcade game, right?
Terrible. And then do you remember the other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle NES game? Donatello had that staff, and it was like weirdly, it did like all these weird.
Was it the first one where you're like driving around in the van? Like that?
Yeah.
It was a weird game.
Super weird. And it was almost like, which Mario Brothers was that? Was it 3 where you had that map and you moved Mario to the next?
It was totally
kind of
like
that.
It's like that, except for the good part.
Oh man, dude, I found my NES, and like we had a really bad snowstorm here, and I had the NES and I had this Nintendo 64, and I told my daughter, I was like, "Oh, dude, we're gonna go downstairs and we're gonna hook this into the projector and play like Bond, like." And none of those systems worked anymore. They all crapped out. I was so bummed. I'm like, "Oh my God, we're gonna have such a good time today."
That's so anticlimactic. Oh man.
Sorry.
I picked up one of the mini NES consoles, but we haven't introduced it to my kids yet because my kids somehow like doing math workbooks and playing chess right now. So I'm just not rocking the boat with like Nintendo yet. I'm like, let's just see how long this phase lasts, and then we'll introduce Nintendo. So.
Oh my God, that's great. Slapback, or would you prefer a long delay?
I think this is a stylistic thing. So you already hinted at the dichotomy of the demos I'm playing right now. If I'm playing Wheedly, it's going to be a slapback. And if I'm playing the more Radiohead stuff, it's going to be a long one. Lately, I would be more drawn to a long delay because it's pushing me out of the Wheedly pattern I'm in into the other stuff. So,
okay. Stephen King books, which do you like better, or movie? They both were movies. And I'm talking original, not the most recent It. I thought the earlier It movie was great. So It or The Stand?
You know, I'm actually not like a horror guy or like even a scary movie guy, to be honest. My wife's like so into it, but then she gets so freaked out. She like pulls me out of the room where I'm editing demos, and she's like, "You got to come edit by me."
Well, so ask her, and then you can report back to me.
I'm the reinforcements for the scary movies. I'm not the watcher of the scary movies. So
yeah. Okay. Well, ask her, and then you can report to me, and that can be your answer.
All right.
All right. Strings, 10s or 11s?
I would go with 10s, although I'm running 9s right now and 9.5s. I just was getting a lot of hand cramping, and I could feel my knuckles getting inflamed a little bit when I was playing, and it just was a good vibe, and I didn't want to go further down that road. So I took a little reprieve to 9s, and I'm actually liking where I'm at for now. So
nice. Okay, great, dude. You got to find your way, man. Last question. Sometimes it's the easiest, sometimes it's the hardest. If you had to take one album, does not have to be your favorite album of all time, but one album that you can erase from your mind, no memory of it, just so you can go back and listen to it for the first time again.
I love this question.
Album?
I love this question. For me, it's got to be Radiohead, The Bends.
All right, please explain.
I need to experience that again. I would love to. It's almost like when someone's like, "What's your favorite Seinfeld episode?" And you're like, "I wish there were still Seinfeld episodes I haven't seen yet." Because I would pay for that. It would be great. For Radiohead, it was like every concert I had gone to before that was a proposition of like my parents saying, "Hey, you would enjoy this. You should go." And Radiohead was the first one I self-initiated. I ended up going with a friend of mine. His mom ended up driving us because we were in middle school. And so we were standing in line at the Fillmore, and, they're handing out like, keychains from Live 105 and condoms. And I'm like, I got a condom. I'm 11, I still totally remember that. I think it sat in my wallet for 5 years until it just expired. It was great. But after that show and seeing Johnny Greenwood shred Just in My Iron Lung and just, oh God, it was it was burned in my experience so deeply, and I got the album after the show because I only knew the High and Dry single and Creep at that time. And I still remember doing like a science fair. You know those science fair boards when you're in middle school?
The
trifold boards. I had to I was literally doing one of those trifold foam core boards. And it was science projects take your whole Sunday when you're that age. And I just played the bends over and over and over again that day. And I was just so in shock of like, what is this? Like, this is unlike anything I've ever heard before, you know? And so I was never really the same after that.
Man, that's great. That's a great album. I mean, out of all the Radiohead records, like, what is that your favorite record? Probably because you're so connected to it.
I'm so deep into that band that I don't even do favorite records anymore because it's my favorite thing is the thing I haven't listened to most recently because it feels the most fresh. And I think even I go in jaunts where I just listen to the B-sides for 3 months and listen to all the EPs and the singles and stuff like that. So I think it reminds me of an era of my life very distinctly, you know, and so that's the reason why. But to go into it fresh and never having heard it before, I would love to do that. That sounds amazing. Great question.
If only the Sunshine of the Spotless Mind thing really existed, but just for like that one thing. Just
right,
that one
exactly.
thing. Not everything. I don't want to like. Have you seen Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man movie?
I haven't seen it yet. No, I want to.
Okay, I won't say anything.
Have you ever answered that question? Have you ever answered that question though about an album due to experience it again?
No.
What would it be?
I mean,
it's hard.
It's really hard because everybody expects me to say 10, but I wouldn't say 10. I honestly like 10. I'm a huge Pearl Jam nerd, but like 10 is not my favorite record. I don't think that's their best album. I feel like Yield is their best record. At least my favorite record. So if I had to pick a Pearl Jam record, it would probably be Yield. But I would definitely the band Jellyfish, their album Spilt Milk is a very special album to me because I was going through a really hard time. And my friend at the time, who was a sax player in my band, picked me up every night and took me out and just had me hanging out with everybody just at the bar. And I would get like one beer and nurse it all night because I can't drink. Because I'm 155 pounds, wet and wearing boots. But so like that album, if you've never heard it, and it's not for everyone, but like it's power pop. It's like Queen meets the Beatles, meets Badfinger kind of thing. It is not an album that everyone immediately gravitates towards, but even if you just listen to the first 2 tracks, I think the first track, it's like a cappella. It's called like Lullaby. It's short. It's like 2 minutes or a minute and a half. It's all a cappella. And then the song Joining a Fan Club, just listen to those 2 things. And then
you're the second person to mention this album to me in less than a month. So I got to go check it out. I haven't actually heard it.
It's real special, man. And it's a shame that those guys split when they split. But those cats are all still doing it. I mean, like the one guy in the band is toured and wrote with Beck for a long time. I think he's still in Beck's band. So it's like they're doing all right. But like that record is something serious.
You know, my runner-up probably would have been Verses by Pearl Jam.
Yeah, it's a good one too, man.
It just that era really felt like every week you didn't know what was going to come out next, and it was always just getting better and better. The music that was dropping. So
yeah, that band will forever, be my guys. I mean, it's just even if they put out crap records, I'll buy them because I'm just like
you're too far gone. I mean, it's the same with me with Radiohead.
Yeah, exactly. Although I don't really like Eddie's new record.
I haven't listened to it yet, but I guess that says everything about it. I think
it's okay. I mean, there's some tunes on there where I'm just like, really? Why'd you do that? And I hate to throw shade at it because I love him. But
what I tell myself is like individual members of the bands, they need to go do their own thing to get those eccentricities out of their system so that they can come back to the band and fulfill that core role that they play. And that band is like a governing body. Everybody checks and balances each other, right? It's like you go listen to Tom's solo stuff, right? And like what they have going on right now. It's going to be different. It's going to be eccentric, but if you didn't exercise that and get it out, it would push everything that way in the core group.
Yeah. Although when you listen to a song like Black Swan, you know who's the real deal in the band who's writing. You know what I mean? It's like, this is Radiohead, like kind of thing. But Yeah, and you know what's weird too, man, is my old band that I toured with the Classic 50 is getting back together, and we were a jam. Yeah, we were a jam band, and we still are, but like we toured in the jam band circuit. So at that time, I was really into Fish and Mo and String Cheese Incident and all those bands. So I'm like starting to revisit some of that stuff just to be like, what was it about that music that I gravitated towards?
Right.
Now that I'm older and I have more mature musical ears. You know, so it's the same concept as that question. And it's interesting to like go back to something that you pushed, because when I went to Berkeley, I pushed that stuff super far away from me.
Right.
Like out the door, foot in the ass kind of thing. Like I'm just like, I don't want to listen to that. I need to get away from it and really get into these other players like Wayne Krantz, who I was really into. Wayne did a cover of Black Swan.
Oh, really? Nice.
It's all instrumental. But that guitar riff, the whole what is it? Like that thing. So he did like that. And dude, it's Keith Carlock on the drums and Tim LaFave on the bass. It's just ridiculously gnarly.
There's some great Radiohead tributes out there. There's this one dude named Christopher O'Reilly who does all piano renditions of Radiohead songs. And
really,
he's so good, but not good in just like a virtuoso show off way. It's almost like if Radiohead had spent longer in the studio and wrote more melodies of the type that they did do in the song. You can hear him playing those melodies that exist, but then he kind of extrapolates on them and takes them a little further. And it's great stuff if you want to relax or you're reading a book and you don't want to be distracted by singing. Definitely check out Christopher O'Reilly if you dig Radiohead.
Can you send me a link to that?
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to take up your whole night. Dude, it's 10 o'clock and this is usually past my bedtime, but this is totally energizing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for making this happen.
Man, for sure. This was super fun. Everybody, go check out Sean's channel, Edge of Breakup. You can find him on YouTube. You can find him on Instagram. Where else do you have stuff out in the ether?
Those are the main two, dabbling in TikTok and Twitter. But I would say come visit on Instagram if you want to talk to Tone in the DMs and talk about music theory or your board setups and all that stuff. If you want the long form videos, you're going to want to head to YouTube. Most of what you see on Insta is like chopped up, meaningful snippets of the YouTube content. So YouTube's the real deal for sure.
Nice. Please go check him out, folks. He's a great guy, great player, great content. And I even hate to say content. Let's just say you're putting art out into the world. And if people want to embrace it, they embrace it, right?
I think Ann Silenkowski said creator the other day. It's a nice label that's not, too I don't know. It just feels there are some labels out there that are kind of icky for this, and I think
it feels schwarmy, doesn't it? A little bit, like the content thing. I feel like I prefer to. We're having fun. How about that? We're having fun. So,
exactly. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, man. Ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourself. Take care of each other, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, buddy.